Wow, sunny out here. Um, hold on a second. This is all art and a few little tributes. I don't know if Mike Dean, you're listening, or if any Mike Dean fans are out there. I'm a Mike Dean fan. Just want to, yeah. So this is Mike Dean. This piece got carved last winter, and it's been sitting outside like during the whole crypto winter, right? Um, but I'm I'm not finished carving it, right? And I did it because, hold on, see that? It's got another side. These pieces always have, it's pretty cool. It needs to be carved. I'm not done. Anyway, I've been carving in the city. So that's Mike Dean. What am I, oh, Totemic Art Flow, Mike Dean Tribute, NYC style. Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I'm about to go out to Central Park, and me and Morph HQ are gonna do spaces later. And I'm gonna try to do it from the park, which would be fun. And the idea is a Tight Necks relaunch party or a launch party. Yeah, it's time. And yeah, so we're gonna do that. But so anyway, I've got, art to make and friends to hang out with and music to see in the park later. So yeah, it's also my son's 18th birthday today. So yeah, I just feel fortunate to have made it this far with him, and he's amazing. My gift to him and his girlfriend is a little vacation away, and so that's cool. They drove up north, so I'm free. So tribute to Mike Dean. Um, Mike has always been, and first of all, he's got a beautiful voice, and because he's a non in so many ways, he's a non except for his voice and his work. Like he lets his work on chain speak for itself, and he does great work both on Titanx Hub, so much free stuff, and whatever the premium deal is, I'm sure it's worth it for advanced data and analytics. I just appreciate the content and the thought, and so Titanx Hub is amazing, Mike. So thank you. And also your voice is really great, literally, and testament to the power of anonymous contributors, both in understanding blockchain and code and data and analytics. Um, so yeah, so Mike, you've been like a really good teacher for me, and I appreciate you and the work that you do. Thank you. And this carving, if you ever get to NYC, I'll hand it to you, and I can put it in a place, and you can remain anonymous. I'll say here, I'm going to leave it here. Go pick it up, or something like that, right? And so it's a really beautiful piece. A friend of mine helped me to carve it last. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was last spring, over a year ago. Over a year ago. Oh wait. Oh no. The last time I. Oh wait. April. I think I carved it anyway. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I think time is flying. So that's the one piece of totemic art. I'm I'm sort of trying to stay out of the sun here. You see the piece of yeah. See the buildings in the back. Anybody that here? This is another piece This is a very powerful piece. It's called Yama Lives. Yama Lives. Yama. Yama Lives. It says, and Yama. So this is a Totemic art flow, Mike Dean tribute, NYC style. Yeah. So Mike Dean, right on, man. I appreciate you, and yeah, keep up the good work. And Matrix, right, is leverage on Hyper, which is leverage on Titan X. It's going to do very well. So that's good. And that could be the, very scarce asset with like a diamond hand holder crew. And that's like any utility added to diamond hand holder crew would be amazing. And so we should talk about bridging some matrix over to pulse chain with the flare and the smoke and the other build on Titan X tokens that we're bridging over. But this is not crypto, this is tribute. So that was to Mike Dean. What else? Oh, Yama. Yama. I always like to give tribute to Yama. Yama is a friend of mine. I met him here in New York City. He left to go take care of his father, I think, in Japan. So Yama, if for some reason you get this story and this vibes, this is tribute to you. And know that this art piece, this is the top of a very tall piece that I've cut in 3 pieces, and so it's got different purposes. The first one was it says Yama lives. So the story of Yama, he lived in a little boat that he lived on in the 79th Street Boat Basin in the Hudson River, Mahokanok territory. But he lived in this boat, parked it in the 79th Street Boat Basin. He also has wild stories about sailing that same boat through the Panama Canal, down to the Panama Canal, through the canal, and then to Tahiti. This guy's an amazing totemic carver, and he's the guy who I saw carving his big, amazing totems down in Riverside Park. And he was the one. He didn't speak much English. I spoke no Japanese, but we became friends. And he pointed me towards my first urban piece of wood. I'll show it to you. It's called Jungle Nightmare, but I'm not going to show it now. I'm showing Yama Lives. So anyway, long story short, it's sort of a tragic art story in that he used to have all of his carvings outside in the park up against the fence, and it was amazing. They were as like a totem field, and this is what inspired me. I stopped and I talked to him, and he pointed me towards the wood, the down wood on 84th Street, and gave me the saw and said, cut it and carve it. And then he and I carved together a bunch, and he encouraged me. He was like, oh, you've got a good style, he told me. And he had an amazing style, and we influenced each other, I think. And one day he had hundreds of carvings. The Parks Department said, you've got to get your art out of the public space in the boat basin area. It's public space, you can't have it there. So we all moved it to this storage area. So he was keeping his carvings in a storage area underneath this boat basin area. And unfortunately, all of the carvings ended up getting taken. The Parks Department gave him notice without him knowing it. And I saw about it because I saw the beautiful carving, some guy walking with a carving on Broadway. I thought, and I stopped and how did you get that? And he said, oh, I just, there's like a pile of them outside in the garbage, in the dumpster. And they were saying that anything that wasn't claimed, they were throwing out. So they put them all in the dumpster and carted them away. A few people, got a few of the carvings, but the big amazing ones were like lost in a landfill, probably in Staten Island. So that's Yama. He was heartbroken, and so were his friends like me about all of his art that he had worked with, and also made his living, carving and selling and distributing from his, little boat. And so he was heartbroken, and he ended up having to leave after that. I did help him to sue the city, okay, and he won um, a a small money judgment to compensate him, but he didn't, like, he was already gone. So yeah, so that's Yama. Power and love to Yama. And so this is like this is my tribute to Yama. Okay, it says Yama, and I left this piece as a challenge last spring out in Central Park, no, in Riverside Park, where they stole his carvings from. I left it out there for like 2 months, just like this, up against a tree, and it was still there 2 months later, right? So, and what it says is, Yama lives, don't mess with art. Back the fuck up. Do not touch. Yama. Yama lives. Yama rules. Back the fuck up. Right? And so I put that out there, and it says, back the fuck up. See that? So it's got this piece has two other pieces to it. I just cut them up just because I wanted multiple use cases. Sort of like crypto, you need multiple. One thing is speculation, but always we need yield and revenue. If there's no yield and revenue, like real yield and yield, right, then it's hard to build value in the asset. But that's apples and oranges here. Or if not revenue, then some other value. It doesn't have to be revenue. It could be a value creator like a network that's fully engaged and contributing. Right, that's what people call community, but I call it a network of aligned interest humans. All right, so what else? What other art? All right, I'll share the first piece I ever did that Yama pointed me to. Okay, this piece is off the hook in my humble opinion. I'm a humble, no-brain artist, but it's amazing. This is just it's a piece of jewelry that I bought in Brooklyn for this carving. I don't really like to wear it because I'm okay. Oh shoot. All right, so this is called Jungle Nightmare. This was the first piece I ever did. I carved mortise and tenon joints. And this is the piece of wood. Check this out. All right. And then that's the backside. But so the thing is, this is Jungle Nightmare. And the amazing thing is that, well, first of all, there's a story attached to it. There's a written sort of poem called Jungle Nightmare that I wrote before I carved it. And it was based on a real nightmare that I had in the jungle. There was an earthquake in the jungle, and I was sleeping on a beach. And I had this earthquake happen, and I felt like I was in a sleeping bag, but it was really hot, and there was bugs. And so I was like, thought I was enough off of the waves to avoid it, but there was an earthquake, and I felt like I was falling into the earth, and the sand shook and I felt like I was dropping into the sand, and I got up and I was fine because it was probably a good place to be for an earthquake. And it was somewhere in Central America. And after that, I was up and I had all kinds of nightmares. And it was also at a time when I was coming through some living nightmares. Okay. And so this is what came out first in dream state, and then I carved it. And Yama, this guy right here, Yama, this guy over here, Yama rules. This guy said, "Hey, go, there's a down tree." I said, what kind of tree? He said, "I don't know. It's a hardwood though. A down tree. It's good for carving." He said, "Dark hardwood." He said, "There's a down tree on 84th Street." He said, "Do you have tools?" And I said, "Yes. Wood wood mallet and cabinetry chisel." That's all I had. A wood mallet and cabinetry square bevel edged cabinetry chisel and a wood mallet. And he said, "That's all you need." And then he gave me a saw, and I cut this piece of wood, and then I started carving it. And then this came out. And out of all the pieces that I've done, it's like, they talk about first principles DeFi. This is like beginner's mind carving, because it took me way longer than most people or most pieces do, because I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never done it, but the result was amazing. And it's unlike any other style that I've ever done since. So it's really, I don't know, it's really amazing, I think. And I like to keep it. It's in my personal collection. Most of them I give away. You see, there's a man's face, and he's having a nightmare, and that sort of nightmare is a little bit connected to what I literally experienced in that jungle. And the nightmare, I didn't even want to tell it. I can't tell it. So the point is that this was my artistic totemic art way to just like get that nightmare flowing through me. Because anyone who's ever had nightmares, whether or not they're war related or family related or whatever they are, karmic or ancestral, people that have nightmares, which are like bad dreams, like, right? There's a way to work with them, so that they don't take over, because they can. And so like the nightmares, and then sometimes the nighttime nightmares become the living, like the daytime nightmares, right? They are connected. And so, yeah. So anyway, so that's how I use. So this is called Jungle Nightmare. I love that piece. I've got some other pieces in here. This is my city pad. It's my city work, live, chill zone. It's like I'm in the, upstate. I'm, truly in the Hudson Valley, Mahokanook territory. Here it's very urban, big buildings. I'm just fortunate that I found a little sanctuary here years ago. And yeah, I just keep this place. It's like it's my, I come here and I can just chill so hard. And because Central Park and Riverside Park were the places that I really did my carving roots. So I learned to really carve, in New York City, mostly on my own, but with a few teachers and collaborators like this guy Yama. And then wherever I was carving, it was normally outside in the parks, and I would attract other carvers. And so one time I was out in Brooklyn in Flatbush Avenue area in Prospect Park, and I took this big piece of wood on the subway out there, and I was out to carve, just to be by myself, find a tree and carve. So I started carving. And I remember hearing some African music in the background, and I was like, right on. I get to like carve, and there's African music. And then some guy tapped me on the shoulder, and it's this African guy dressed just like a normal guy, except he had a drum. He had this beautiful drum, and he said, "Hey, you want to come over He had the English accent. He said, "You want to come over? We have some carvers and drummers. You want to carve this?" He said, "That's beautiful." I had this piece. I don't know where it is now. Oh, I do know where it is. It's inside there. It's called Beloved. So that piece I was carving, and then they invited me into their drum circuit. There were a bunch of African drummers, a bunch of guys from Senegal, um, and other places, mostly West African, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, but mostly the Senegalese guys were like the carvers and the drummers. And it was really cool because they invited me into their, and God, I mean, they liked what I was doing, but I was enthralled with what they were doing. The carvings that they were doing were, in my mind, they were more in the tradition, in the carving, in the totemic tradition of their clan and their tribal art, right? And so, yeah, so they were really great. And I spent one whole summer out there. Every weekend I would go out, and whenever I could, I would go out to like bring wood and carve and hang out with the drummers and the carvers. And it taught me a lot. And there was a whole series of carvings that I did during that time. And then it disappeared. It disappeared. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't even want to talk about why it disappeared, but it did disappear. Like one day I went to go hang out and everyone was like gone. I was like, what the fuck? Oh my God. And so I asked around and people are like, oh yeah, they got moved. I said, where'd they get moved to? They're like, we don't know. But basically the parks enforcement people came and they did the same shit that they used to do with me with like the carvers. If you leave like little wood chips in the park, they kick you out of the park. And we're like, what? Come on. So anyway, it's just, it's where freedom and responsibility, because we were all being responsible artists. And anyway, those guys got kicked out. I never saw them again, right? But I carved with them for one whole summer, like 3 or 4 months, and it was amazing. I had a great time with them. I developed French, and then they were gone. you know, One guy I connected with, and he was like, I don't know where they all went. Everyone just dispersed, probably out to Sunset Park. A lot of like artists, who get booted out of public or semi-public art spaces in the city. It's constantly happening. It's when real estate owners and whether or not they're government or private, and when they're like, no, we don't want public art here, right? We don't want this. The only public art that they really allow is like, um, well, they don't allow any really, other than when it's paid for by the public, by government grants and fellowships and stuff. But most artists like me don't want to do that. We just want to make art and put it out there, and yeah. So anyway, but it's all good. So where was I? So yeah, so this is Jungle Nightmare. It's my favorite piece, just because it's my first piece. And that's it. So peace to you, Mike Dean. Later, if anybody's actually watching this, later me and Morph HQ Irwin are going to do a spaces. We're going to try to do a consistent, fun space for tight necks now that we've hit bottom, and it's time to collaborate and pump each other's bags into the bull run. Peace out. Be well. Live long and prosper.